I think I've made a breakthrough on something that I've been searching for 30 years now. A couple breakthroughs, actually. My superpower and a process or a systematic way to find it. So maybe it'll help you too, or maybe not. And maybe once again, my arch nemesis has squashed me. So, I mean, ever since I was 8 years old, I've wanted to have a superpower. My favorite show was the X-Men, and I remember watching that and just afterwards, just like squeezing and closing my eyes and squeezing every single muscle and hoping, praying, aching for my own superpower. I really wanted to be extraordinary and not just be a regular person. I guess that doesn't make me unique. I just know that I felt that deep, deep, deep within me. And I felt that somehow deep inside me, I did have some sort of superpower. Of course, I didn't. And I have not proven that at all. And as the years have continued since, the 30 years since, my aspirations for extraordinary have changed. I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer, an NBA basketball player, a world-denting CEO, and most recently a successful content creator. And none of those have panned out. Those dreams got pitilessly squashed by my arch nemesis, reality. And, I still feel this, feel this deep satisfaction within me saying, there's something more inside me to tap into, something more that I can bring out to the world to do good, or at least more good than bad. But, I haven't found it. So I've been writing about how to be extraordinary and researching it and trying to apply it in my life. And that feels good. Like it helps me improve my life and enjoy my life more. But it's not I don't have anything super powered. So in general, I've just settled. But then a few Aprils ago, in April 28th, 2021, my son arrived, and his arrival sort of turbocharged my interest in finding my superpower and his now, because, it wasn't just about me anymore. And so I devoured a whole bunch of books, resources, podcasts, articles, all on the topic. Anything I could think of: personality, genetics, cultural evolution, biology, neurobiology, stoicism, everything that I could think of, or anyone that's written about the topic of finding your calling, zone of genius, element, whatever you want to call it. I tried to amass all this evidence. I even spoke with a couple of people who do this professionally, Jack Skeen and Marloes Bromeister. And I knew I was making progress, but I was still missing something. Then this April, on the Art of Manliness podcast, there was a guest named Ryan Bush who, as it turned out, had a very similar interest to me. He was a kindred spirit. And he too had been spending years piecing together evidence to try to figure out how to become who you are. And that's the title of his most recent book that came out. So after listening to that podcast, I got the book and started reading. And there, 45% in, after he had laid the groundwork of all of his research and to the philosophies of the Stoics, of Nietzsche, of Maslow, positive psychologists, I found the missing piece. Or I think, what is the missing piece? An elegantly simple yet powerful formula. E equals NVS. Eudaimonia equals net virtue self-signaled. It's kind of like E equals MC squared. Simple formula, but powerful and a little bit complex behind it. But let me see if I can explain to some extent. So eudaimonia is the fancy Greek word that we don't really have in English for true well-being, true fulfillment, true happiness, but not that happiness, but that sense that, of fulfilling your potential. Essentially, eudaimonia is the opposite of depression. So that's something interesting that he pointed out in the book and worth keeping in mind when thinking about all of this. If you're feeling bad, you're doing the opposite of what we're going to be talking about, of tapping into your superpower, essentially. E equals NVS, so net virtue self-signaled. That's kind of a lot of big words. The simpler way to put it might be giving yourself reasons to admire yourself. So admiration. That's where it all comes down to. Admirability, feeling admirable. Superheroes are admirable. You look up to them. So you want to feel like you're a superhero to yourself, which is the virtue side of things. Net virtue, admirability, it comes down to values. Now, values is kind of can be a fluffy word, but in this term, it's in this regards, we're talking about values which are something in a more psychological sense, something that's deep inside your ego's true deep down meta goals, the goals behind your goals. And each of us have our own particular set of them. And that's what we need to work towards to feel eudaimonia, or the opposite of depression. Of course, society, culture, our own brains sort of screw that up by making us want to pursue other goals that aren't true to our values. And that's part of the process, is figuring out how to avoid that and pursue and keep on focusing on what matters the most. So admirability is fulfilling those values. That's what virtue is, fulfilling values, or admirability. Self-signaled is about the fact that ultimately it comes down to whether your ego processes those actions that you've taken to fulfill those values and giving you credit for it, right? If you do something wonderful, but don't give yourself credit for it, you're not going to feel any eudaimonia. You're going to feel bummed because you're going to feel like a bum. And it's a subtle nuance, but something that many of us are victim to, that we do these great things. We spend a lot of time, for example, with our family, which is something that most of us value heavily, and, do great things for family, but we don't give ourselves the credit for it because various reasons, right? So, but the more that you understand your values and you intentionally take action to fulfill them, the more you can probably give yourself credit for doing so and feel that eudaimonia. Then, to maximize or optimize or feel super eudaimonia, it's all about doing so efficiently. How do you do so efficiently? Well, do admirable things efficiently. Well, by using your strengths, right? Every one of us has a set of things that we are particularly good at, or at least not as bad as everybody else at, or, at least, strengths, okay? And if we can find those strengths and then find a way to converge them, like Voltron, or like, if you see some of those superhero movies, everyone's shooting a laser and they come together, so they become super powerful, then we can be extra efficient and extra eudaimonic. So all of this comes down to really 4 steps. First, understand your ego's true values. Second, identify your strengths. Third, find ways to fulfill your values through the convergence of your strengths. Fourth, give yourself credit for doing so. Do so, and you will feel eudaimonic and feel admirable and feel like a superhero. Maybe not an X-Men, but you'll feel great. And you won't want to be an X-Men because you'll be doing what's true to you. So once I had this all together, it was time to piece it together, obviously. And I had all of the clues that I needed, or all of the pieces that I needed from all of my research. I had my values. I believe that the most reliable source of values comes from Shalom Schwartz's model. I'll put a link to an assessment in the description below. And I had my strengths. I had the most reliable assessment there. It comes from Martin Seligman. The VIA Values in Action survey that just sort of measures you based on, or helps you find your top 5 strengths out of 24. Those are the most reliable from a scientific, psychological standpoint. On top of that, I hold a whole bunch of contextual information, such as my most proudest achievements, my interests, my passions, who I look up to, stuff from my past, what I was into when I was a kid, all of that. So now, the challenge was to bring them together, to find the convergence of my strengths and figuring out how to converge that with, or how to fulfill my values with those strengths. That's the challenge. This is where normally I would get stuck, because it's like there's a lot of strengths there, there's a lot of values there, it's all kind of fluffy stuff. How do you bring it all together and be unbiased and assess all possible ways to do so, all possible ways to apply this superpower in a fulfilling way? But this is where the second breakthrough came, and that's from my sidekick, AI. AI is amazing at doing exactly this, synthesizing information and making unexpected connections while having a huge, broad array of knowledge, right? So what I did is I took all this input that I had and I plugged it into a specially customized AI. I used Anthropic by Claude project there, for those of you who are interested. And I gave it a lot of instructions, but mostly it was this. You are the CEO of humanity. Your job is to ensure long-term thriving of humankind and the world. This attached is a bunch of information about me. Please use this information to deconstruct what I'm made of, what my values are, what my strengths are, and figure out how to put those together and what my superpower is. Then, given that, find some potential roles that I can take to help ensure the continued flourishing of humanity, to basically be a superhero. I plugged in all the information, and then I press submit. And wow. As I read the answers, I felt I truly tingled, like Peter Parker being bit by a spider, maybe. What it said in the output there was that my superpower was pioneering unconventional wisdom. The AI then gave me a description of what it meant by that, and about 8 different possible roles or careers or jobs I could have that would help me use that superpower to reach eudaimonia, to feel admirable. Now, the crazy thing is that some of these suggestions were actually things that either I'd been thinking about, dreaming of, or actually doing, helping people craft. One of them was help people craft more extraordinary lives, which is what I'm trying to do with the ZAG, with these videos and mostly with my writing. So that felt incredibly validating because, hey, maybe I am not on the wrong path. And it explained why I'm so enthusiastic about what I do despite my lack of success. And it helped me realize, wait a second, the reason why I'm not succeeding is because I'm not converging all my strengths when doing this. I'm working on the right thing towards the right values, but not using the right strengths. My superpowers, my strengths are not creating videos like this or writing. They're more systematic, analytical, and that's stuff that I need to incorporate more into my work to truly unleash my superpower and fulfill my potential. The second validating part of this was just how I felt when reading the response from the AI. This exercise that I did of plugging this information in or collecting this information, plugging it in and systematically helping myself to identify my superpower and how to use it could be that system that I can use to unleash my superpower, that I can help other people find their superpower. So instead of dreaming of becoming one of the X-Men and getting recruited by Professor X, maybe I could be my own regular life, real life version of Professor X, the guy who identifies the X-Men and recruits them. I'm very excited by this concept. It just seems to resonate deeply within my ego. Of course, I could be wrong. I just know that this idea of it's in line with what feels true to me and my ego's values, and I'm excited to figure out how to convert all my strengths upon it. And I think this is the way. So to start, I challenge you to take these 2 assessments that I linked to below. Think more about your background, what you think is admirable to you, and upload it to an AI, whether it be Anthropic Claude or ChatGPT, and just see what it says. Start from there. And if not, if you need some help to not only find this information, but also put it into action, maybe the hard part, consider reaching out to me, and I think that I can help, because just maybe that's my superpower, and I hope you can find yours too.